8 years ago, I stood just outside the shed there. I glued a couple of pieces of pallet wood together. I planed off the edges and a hobby was born. The rest is history. Back then, there was no space in here for woodwork. Time went by, now everything in here is just for woodwork. And now I want to reclaim out there to make out there part of in here. So, I'm going to build a giant soccer ball, create a whole new space and attach it to the shed. That's the plan. My name is Dainer, and let me quickly bring you up to speed. In my last video, I turned 13 pallets into all the stock. Let's call them 2x4s for all the framework required to build the dome. From here on, we will refer to that as the dome, and sprinkle a few references to the 90s movie Biodome.
Homeostasis is currently 0%.
Also, you don't need to go back and watch the first video in this series. I literally made wood out of wood, but I will link it at the end of the video so you can follow along. Before I made all that 2x4 stock, I did do one experiment to make just one hexagon, which was a very simple process of cutting 6 equal length trapezoids at 30 degrees and then creating a hexagon. And then for strength, I layered the next 2 hexagons with interlocking trapezoids, which created a super strong bridle joint on each of the corners of the hexagon. This looked pretty cool, but from that experiment, it proved that there would be far too much waste. That's a lot of pallets. I was basically only getting one slat per hexagon side, and I had about 400 millimeters of leftover scrap. This is why I decided to create all my own 2x4s, and I did that in the last video by laminating all of the pallet wood together. Let me use the entire pallet slat and have no waste and use far less pallets. It's a big hexagon. Right, why a dome? I was watching Morley Kurt build a geodesic dome office pod, and I basically thought that was flipping cool. I would love to try and build a dome of some sort. So, I decided I will. Unlike Morley, who is actually an engineer with a cool haircut, I am not. So I thought keeping mine a little more simple would be the go, and I landed on hexagons and a few pentagons, which are the shapes required to make up a soccer ball. Also, if you do have some expert concerns about the strength of this thing as we go, I totally understand. Just know that I have applied some of the theories of Caesar, which if you've never heard it before is actually just ape together, strong together. That's it. Stick with me. As well as the need to do all these trial runs to make sure I get all the jig dialed in for the bridle joints, I need to be able to cut this 20.8 degree angle. I've been pondering how I'm going to send a giant hexagon through the table saw, and you've got to picture which way the sword blade goes. Sorry, just let me interrupt myself, who is about to completely over-explain every experiment, trial, test run idea that I had. It actually made the video like 10 minutes longer, really unnecessary. I may put that information on my second channel, Dainer, in the future, just to talk about things. But for now, all you really need to know is I went through lots of things, but in the end I end up settling on running the giant hexagons through the table saw, utilising a little auxiliary fence just to make it a little bit safer. I used the gripper, that was fantastic. It held the hexagons down, fully supported, and I got those nice big bevels cut, no problem at all. And that's pretty much all I need to say about that. Okay, I'll run a bit of B-roll fluff, just in case. Alright, thank you very much. I'd have got to go and look what a soccer ball looks like again. I thought 3 hexagons were meant to meet. 3 hexagons meets nicely that way, but when you bring the angles in, they no longer meet. There are pentagons in a soccer ball. Maybe the hexagons never meet in a corner? Let's go and have a look. Okay, we're all good. Hexagons don't meet at 3 points. They only ever meet at 2 points. The adjacent side is a pentagon. At this stage, I don't think I'm going to be making the pentagons. I'm going to fill those in with another method. Step 1 is basically 5 hexagons. Those 5 hexagons should start to create the first curve with a pentagon right in the middle. I'm committed.
Homeostasis is currently 7%.
I think I'm happy with the routine So there is a lot of steps, and every step there's either 30 or 60 of them I've got to do. 60 trapezoids needs to get the cross cuts, then those pieces go on to the joinery jig. We remove one piece, remove two pieces. I'll do that on half of the side. The other side of the trapezoid has to get the mortise again on the joinery jig, and I remove the waste, put the hexagons together, and then glue them up. Check them that they are nice and hexagon square against the original. I know it's good. And then run them through the table saw to remove that 20.89 degree bevel, and then the hexagons should come together. It's a massive amount of work, this next part, but it's very much take my time, work through the process, one cut at a time, until I get everything that I need, which is a lot. Now, I can switch the brain off from the what happens next from here on in. I think we can agree that the joinery jig is going to be the hero of this build. So let's go. Quick shout out for Anthony, because I just owe him. I owe him so much. A new and improved spinny wheel, because as I've got 60 of these to do, that is a lot of motion. I've got soft hands.
I ran a timer to see how long it would take to drop one trapezoid into the joinery jig, remove the waste, take the trapezoid out of the joinery jig, and that ended up taking about 1 minute and 30 seconds. So that amount of time times 30 was a huge undertaking and was a little bit brutal on the dad body. Now, after cutting all those perfect mortises and tenons, I found out they were too perfect, and in fact it was quite difficult to bring the hexagonal joints together, unlike at 90 degrees, which is very easy. So I put all the mortises back on the joinery jig, and I took off one more pass. Then the joints could come together without me having to bash them with a mallet. But just remember, ape together, strong together. So it was okay if those joints were a little bit loose. And from there, I could simply belt sand off all of the bulk, get rid of any protruding tenons, and I would have my nice flush hexagons assembled and ready to go through the table saw.
Homeostasis is currently 19%.
Alright, quick word on the dome. The dome's sole purpose is to house the CNC. The dome replaces my wheel out, wheel in CNC station, which was just fine and a great solution to creating more usable floor space, but it did come with a few annoyances and risks. Ever buy an expensive phone only to jump onto eBay and buy a $3 case? That's me. And then wonder why it breaks when you drop it? I have an expensive CNC machine, and it was literally being protected by a plywood cubby house and some black plastic rain coating. Not to mention the risks of damaging components with snags as I rolled the station in and out, as well as the massive draw slides to slide the CNC in and out on the station itself. I have ripped all of these electrical connections out in one go. And I have had water drip into this expensive electrical circuit board controller box thing, and it went crack and sparks flew out. You may be also wondering why I am now extending my shed after I've just told you all I've sold my house and will one day be moving. Well, because 1, I don't know when I'll be moving, and 2, not everyone owns their house. So we need a solution that is rental property friendly. So here are the dome requirements. It needs to be inexpensive to build. I use pallets, they are free. Get yourself a Dave Kelly, who delivered all my pallets and gave me a huge head start on the time I need to make this. It needs to be weatherproof. Rain cannot get inside the dome, and it cannot blow away in a cyclone. The dome needs to be transportable. I have further plans for the dome, with possibly a shipping container, all cooking in my brain, but I'll let you imagine that kind of workshop for yourself for now. And finally, and most importantly, it needs to be awesome. I want a cool space, and I hope you want to see me build a cool space, so please stick with me. Wait for it. So I've just got the most timely sponsor for this video ever, and that is Bambu Lab. Up until now, all of the 3D printed things you can see around me here, especially my Dainer made check squares, have been printed by my mates. But that has changed because I now have just got my hands on a Bambu Lab A1 3D printer. The A1 is built for beginners. I'm talking take it out of the box, start printing, simple, just like me. Bambu Lab has made 3D printing so accessible, I only wish I wasn't so late to the Bambu Lab party. But beginner friendly doesn't mean basic. This thing has outstanding performance with precision and accuracy that makes every print look like it came from a professional print shop. And here's the kicker.
The A1 Combo is now $6.99 Aussie dollars, normally $8.99.
It is sleek, modern and quiet enough to sit in your living room. And it looks more like a designer appliance than a workshop tool. The real magic is Bambu Lab's integrated ecosystem, Maker World, for thousands of free models. So with Bambu Studio and Bambu Handy, you can send prints straight from your phone and one-click making. That makes creating fun and fast. 3D printing is very much a case of, if I can do it, so can you. Head to my link in the description to get to Bambu Lab's website, where you can get your own A1 right now. Thank you kindly to Bambu Lab for sponsoring the video. You can probably guess what my first project is going to be. Mass production of the Dainer made check squares. Sort of. These squares were originally designed to be a sellable product to help me go full business human. But what actually happened was I started selling these for other humans and needs and stuff, which is something I'm pretty proud of. Right now, and when I say we, I mean I've recruited a small army of 3D printing punters who all have their own Bambu Lab 3D printer as well. And we are pumping out as many of these novelty size, but very usable squares as possible. We are selling these, and all the funds are going to our maker mate, Phil Shimbine, who is currently battling bowel cancer. And he's also spreading the very important message to get your bum checked. And that is why we have a few different slogans available for purchase. I want to personally thank everybody who has bought a square, bought a coffee, or bought Phil a beer, or even contributed to my little side quest to try and win the big square, which is currently being auctioned on Anthony's website. There is heaps of ways that you can help chip in to help us support Phil during this ordinary time for him and his family. In fact, if you want to chip in right now without even leaving YouTube, you can simply hit the super thanks button, make a donation. I'll put those funds towards the Help Me Win the Big Square fund, and all that cash goes to Phil. Now, this machine was very easy to set up and to get printing. I ran a few little test files, and then I dove straight into mass production of the check squares. And I have been giving this machine an almost non-stop workout, and it has not skipped a beat. That is quite impressive, especially when these squares take about 5 hours each to print. Now, I'm just getting started with 3D printing, and I'm very excited for the possibilities. But for now, it is all about pumping out squares. Unless I'm building a giant soccer ball. Then I will need a hexagon, which Anthony also printed for me weeks ago before this whole bamboo thing came along. But if you want a hexagon, let me know. I will print one and we can sell those as well. Right. 10 hexagons, 11, there's 2 halves. It does not matter what happens from here on in. This has been so much fun to turn 13 pallets into 11 hexagons. One of the biggest sort of tragedies on this project is you're not even going to get to seal these bridle joints where the joins meet, which is a bit of a bummer because they've all turned out pretty good. I'm just going to put some chamfers on it to accentuate things, but there's also other reasons for that, waterproofing and stuff, but just because I like chamfering is the main reason. If you just want to have a bit of fun, pick something that's quite odd, hard to do, different angles, all those things, and just do stuff. You learn a heap, and it certainly will make you feel good on the inside.
Homeostasis is currently something percent.
Initially, Dave Kelly dropped off 13 pallets, and I used those 13 pallets to build all the 2x4 framework required for the dome. Not long after, Dave Kelly then dropped off another 13 pallets, and I'm going to use all of those for the cladding or the filling in of the hexagons. Now, some people might say that 13 is an unlucky number. Well, to me, it's not. Let me tell you a little story about me. When I was young, I played a lot of soccer, like a lot of Aussie kids did. I was not the most coordinated or naturally talented sports child. I had a brother just 1 year older than me, and he was a goal-scoring machine. I generally played in the mud and picked my nose. We played soccer from about age 4 or 5, and many seasons went by and I had never kicked a goal. True story, my dad hand wrote up a contract saying that if I, Mark Dainer, that if I kick 10 goals in my soccer career, he and Mum would fly the entire family to Disneyland. Cool, I said. or the 8-year-old version of challenge accepted. I'm now 13 years old and I've still never kicked a goal. True story. Me and my brother, we run out onto the field. We are on the attack. I can't remember if my brother passed me the ball, but the ball is rolling towards me. I boot the ball. It curves past a few defenders and the goalie and smacks into the back of the net. Holy shit. So I'm sprinting back to the halfway point, trying to stay in front of my brother so he can't see the tears of joy streaming down my face. My brother is slapping me on the back and yahooing. I see my dad on the sideline, double fist pump, yahooing. The coach is yahooing, the team's yahooing, and it was a pretty special moment. And it was my 13th birthday. True story. Anyway, lucky 13, I have always said. And from that point forward, things actually got a little bit easier for me. And to this day, I have amassed a grand total of 3 goals, and we still have not been to Disneyland. My point is, a little self-belief and a little patience goes a long way, and why I now believe in sayings like just get started, and obviously just keep going. You'll never achieve anything if you don't give it a bash, or just give it a chance. Some things take time. Woodworking, making, creating videos is the same. And now, I'll hopefully have a giant soccer ball in my backyard. Not that that was the goal. So these little roof pieces are the whatever they're called to adjoin the 2 hexagons. They're not transformers, hexagons. Join them together. Again, I'm not an engineer. 5 of these big ass screws feels like a bit of overkill, but then 4 didn't seem like enough because I do live in a cyclone area in the world. I'll just put one together and we'll see if this actually works. I tried to chamfer the life out of everything, just so it looks cool basically. I think to also tick the box for transportable, if all of the hexagons are just joined with these, I can pull apart any of those sections to separate this thing into maybe 2 or 3 big pieces. Bear with me, I've never put a hexagon together before. One thing Morley did say was he should have built in some tolerance so when everything goes together. I honestly think I'm going to get away with plenty of tolerance because I've got big hexagons where he had small triangles, and there already seems to be plenty of tolerance in there. But it's all good. Clamping it together though is not so easy. Have not thought the rest of this through. Let's just have a bash. Okay, I have my 5 hexagons joined together, and I need to see how this looks outside and get a quick confirmation my measurements I took from a 3D model are all correct and I can carry on with this dome. Once I managed to get this thing outside and I got it leaning up against the shed, I could clearly see I was on a winner. And I tell you, I'm now pretty excited and happy I took a punt on this idea. I'm not going to assemble anymore, I'm actually going to take it back inside. Disassemble. I got to work on all the cladding, more pieces that gets it flush with the top of the shed and flush with the ground and side. And so it's actually a box which is a vault.
Homeostasis is currently 33%.
Right, I think I'm pretty committed to this dome, so I'm going to pull apart the CNC cubby house behind me here.
One thing I learned from my dad is you can preserve and look after your outdoor timber and furniture if you slap on a bit of paint. Slap it on, don't be shy. Just keep slapping it on, he'd say. So that is what I'm going to do to help with the waterproofing requirement, but also so no moisture can actually get into the 2x4 laminations and separate them and bring the whole dome down. What I also learned growing up was there is only 2 colours for outdoor furniture, fences, retaining walls, stairs and pergolas, and that is Mission Brown, and if you're doing all right on payday, Mission Green. 2 colours that you will never see in my backyard ever. I'm scarred for life. Anywho, moving on. All the hexagons will be filled in with pallet wood. All I need to do to prep this timber is whip off one straight edge and then whip the board parallel. Then I can put a chamfer on each edge for that cladding appearance. I'll simply glue those boards together into 2 large pieces, and then I'll glue those 2 large pieces together to give me one panel that is large enough to span a hexagon.
Homeostasis is currently please like and subscribe %.
So I've just done 2 glue ups, which equals 2 panels for 2 hexagons. That used a lot of timber. Now I only broke down 6 pallets for this and that's going to be well short.
These hexagon panels will then drop into a rebate of the hexagon frame. So I bought this beast of a router bit to remove all that material, and it made very, very light work of this pine pallet framing. With hexagons completely finished, I can start to mark out the hexagon shape and then use a circular saw to cut out that shape. This is not fine woodworking. Just know there is plenty of liquid nails, silicone and paint to go yet.
I got 4 shields, little warrior shields. Little warrior shields, did you say? Yes, I did say that. It's just a bloke who makes shields for sick kids in hospital. And you can check his information out down below. I need to start putting the ball back together out there. I need to get some paint on some of the edges to start waterproofing this pine. So I'm just going to pause, have a bit of a clean up, move some things, get a bit more organised. I'm definitely at the overwhelming stage. I also just come off night shift. I have slept, I'm not that tired, but I'm a bit tired. So I'm not doing anything crazy.
Okay, if we just ignore the amazing camera work going on here, what I'm actually doing is using a hand plane to joint the edges of the 2 panels, which was fine. It wasn't perfect, but what I could have done from the start, and I did later on, was whip out the world's fastest straightening jig, and I straightened or jointed those panels together perfectly, which was great and easy and fast because it's the world's fastest straightening jig. And there's a video on Dainer made Unofficial. It's got the flash on it to signify that it's fast. Alrighty, time to assemble the 5 hexagons again, and it turns out my head is the perfect height to hold the hexagon to just be able to reach the drill and get the 2 hexagons held in position. Again, joining 5 giant hexagons together is up there with the most rewarding things that I have done in my shed. And I'm talking about the stuff that makes you feel good on the inside. I am so pumped with how this thing is going and the joy it has brought along the way. Seriously, I've been smiling, laughing, carrying on with myself, and it has made it so worth it. Stick with me. Dropping in the first couple of hexagon panels, I really do start to see the finish line and start to see the rigidity and the strength starting to be strong, like a thing that gets stronger when you add lots of things together and it's stronger. If only I had a movie reference to throw in here.
You've just seen the bit I've done up the top. That's going to brace it against the shed. The next step is to lift this thing up into position. So there's hexagons that give it that extra height now. So these sort of 2 here, I'm just assembling the panel with all the pallet wood cladding in between. So then I can actually cut whatever that shape is to have a flat bottom on those 2 pieces. So I cut them the same but opposite, and that should help me raise this thing up. And I've got all the cladding already in there so that gives it some structure. So it's going to be taking all the weight. And then from there, I can just start doing it piece by piece, section by section, cutting hexagons. They've all got to end up flush at some point with a flat part of the shed. It's definitely going to be a lot of fluffing around from here. I'll try and keep the fluff B-roll flowing for your visual pleasure. But at the moment, a little anxious that it's going to come together. But I'll just keep cracking on.
Homeostasis is currently 69%.
Reminds me a little bit of Star Wars.
Each day or session that goes by, the dome is starting to look more and more like a soccer ball, and of course it starts to rain. It has not rained for months, but it's not a big deal. I'll just have to throw the black raincoat on until I can get those first few coats of paint slapped on. Isn't that right, Dad?
I knew there was a reason I was keeping these old posts. Really dodgy shipping pallet plywood, but it is amazing. Chuck a chamfer on it, quick sand, and it's a nice beautiful beam.
Homeostasis is currently 72%.
Just trimming out all the pentagons now. We'll get an inner strip, then I'll cut the panel for those, which will again start to tie in more corners, strengthening up this whole thing. But we've got a bit of a dome. It's looking all right.
I had big plans for the pentagons where I was thinking I would have different types of visual textures. In the end, I decided to stick with the same cladding appearance for all except one pentagon. The pentagons were actually trickier than I expected, so I ended up cutting and installing each pallet wood cladding piece individually. Again, knowing I'll be adding more internal structure in the near future.
Homeostasis is currently 85%.
Time to slap on the paint, and as I was out of old leftover paint, I put a call out to the boys to see if anyone had any old paint lying around destined for the dumpster. And what do you know, get yourself a Dave Kelly. Dave delivered a whole basket of paint. And when we get to the end, I don't think that is the dome's final paint job either. It's the paint job for now for this shed. Already we are seeing what this dome might look like at its next home, but for now it is not an eyesore and it is doing its job very nicely.
Homeostasis is currently 98.1%.
So another stitch up. Just climbed up on the giant soccer ball and kicked the ladder over. So lucky that pentagon there that I don't like has some foot pegs, so I can actually climb down reasonably safely. But if you never see this video again, I guess we know that I broke my neck. All right. It's like a little amphitheatre. I need to get the CNC in here. I have some existing bits and pieces, previous builds that may be useful in here. It is a very strange space. I think I've got to get it operational and then decide what I want to do more permanently, or just keep it usable until this thing eventually moves on with me whenever that is. I don't know. Just having this little bit more room to move is going to be great. I'm not going to overthink it just yet because this has been a pretty epic build. A little bit mental, but I love it. I already love it. It's cool, and I'm glad I did it. So.
I have had a ball making this project, and if you're thinking you might want to tackle a big project or extend your workspace somehow, kick a goal, if you will, well, all you have to do is just get started.
Homeostasis is currently, she'll be right, catch ya later %.